We started this series, Hope for the Holidays, 2 weeks ago, and today it's been kind of, it's if you were here for first service, it drastically differed from second service, and then second service, it'll drastically differ from this one. You know, guys, as I was writing the message this last week and everything that kind of happened this morning, I just kind of threw it out, and I said, you know what, I'll just kind of, for lack of a better term, is wing it. And that's kind of what today has been. Today has been one of those days where we've been having nothing but challenges in just different places and in tech and on the stage, and it's just been everywhere. And really what it's made me realize is that God sometimes will stop us. He'll stop us and say it's time for us to kind of change things a little bit and for us to really follow the pattern that He's allowed for us to have. And sometimes He just goes, I want you to go this direction. So it's my responsibility to obey that. You know, a lot of times as men, we like to muscle through things. Well, as men, we like to go, I can take this. I can do it all on my own. And that's what I usually do when it comes to service. I usually just go, I'll take care of it, and I'll just do it all on my own. And instead of hearing the calling, instead of listening to what the Spirit is telling me and saying, slow down and kind of follow the direction I want you to go. So the last week, we started this series, and we started talking about the business of Christmas. Anybody realize how much money that Christmas shopping costs? I mean, the people go out, and they're going to spend billions of dollars over the last 6 weeks. You know, from Thanksgiving until Christmas Day, it's usually a 6-week process, and they're going to spend billions of dollars. There's more money spent in the 6-week time than there is all year long. A lot of times, guys, this is the time where people are going to go in debt, and we really talked about that last week. We really talked about how much of it we get caught up in the business of Christmas instead of doing what God has asked us to do and celebrating the birth of His Son. So often we miss this birthday in order to go in debt or in order to celebrate a Christmas that usually it isn't the day that it's supposed to be. Today, we're going to talk about the sorrow and the pain of Christmas. You guys know that a lot of times I've talked about it, and last week I talked about it, that there is pain in Christmas. There's pain in it because people on Thanksgiving, you don't think about it. People, the first thing they do is they come together and they go, it's family time, it's friends time. Well, if you're alone and you don't have hope, it's also the number one weekend of the year where people commit suicide. And people will go off, and it'll be the end. It'll be the last week that they share here with us on earth because they're depressed. It is a painful time for people. It's the first is Thanksgiving, and the second most is Christmas Day. More people die on Christmas Day than any time else during the year. It's very, very tragic, and it's a very painful time. And then next week, we are going to change the tempo completely. We're going to talk about the joy of Christmas and what it really represents. And then the last week of this series, we're going to talk about a new start. We're going to talk about what Christmas and just this new start that really we were given with this opportunity for what Christmas really represents, the birth of our Savior, is a new start for each one of us. Today, though, open up, if you have a Bible with you, maybe you don't have a Bible, but if you have, maybe it's on your phone, or maybe you just want to surf Facebook as I'm kind of going through this, all those things are okay. You will hear the message. Hebrews 4, and we're going to look at verses 14 through 16. And really Paul is telling us, that he comes out and he goes, therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven. Now, I want to be very clear on this. When you hear this great high priest, and it changes from different, when you go to different translations of the Bible, because we hear this priest and we're like, oh, it's a Catholic thing, or it's this, or it's that. It's not a Catholic thing. Throughout the Bible, when you really get into like Leviticus and you start looking at that, pastors are referred to as priests and rabbis. That's what they're referred to as. Even rabbis are referred to as priests. And so when they say this great high priest, they're really referring to people that lead. The leaders of churches is what they're really looking at. So this great high priest is really this in a non-denominational church, it goes the senior pastor, great high priest. And if you go to a denominational church, it goes senior pastor, district superintendent, regional superintendents, and then all of a sudden, at the Catholic Church, it's priest, cardinal, bishop, priest, bishop, cardinal, pope. And, so you see this, and then Jesus. So there's lots of filtering that has to happen. And this point right here, they're talking about, it literally, the buck is stopping here. We have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven. Jesus, the Son of God. Now, one of the things that we've looked at in the Bible, and we looked at all across different religions, the one thing that nobody disputes that Jesus was here. Nobody disputes that Jesus walked the earth with us, that he went around and he had 3 years of ministry. Nobody disputes any of that. Nobody disputes that he was crucified. Nobody disputes actually that he performed miracles. When you look at, you can look at Muslims, you can look at, it doesn't matter what religion you look at. You go across, nobody will dispute. Even the Jews are the same way. They're like, no, he performed miracles. He was a prophet. He was this person. He was that person. These are all things that they will say that he did. What everybody gets to the question is him being rose again. That's where it all comes to a halt. They're like, oh, no, he was crucified and it was over. For us, we believe that he rose again and now he lives and he's in heaven. That's what we believe. Let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. That means that we're supposed to hold on to this. It's supposed to be something that we hold firmly onto. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, and yet he did not sin. So, one of these words that you're going to hear every once in a while it's called incarnation. And incarnation is not a flower, it's a Christianese word. And by Christianese, that means the only time you're ever going to hear it is in a Christian church. You will never hear it any other place. You'll never go anyplace else and they're going to be like, oh, incarnation, that's my homeboy. No, that's not what happens. It's really only happens in a Christian church. You walk in and we talk about incarnation. And all that means that Jesus came down, was born to a virgin. That's all it is. That God came and was born into a virgin. That's all they had to say, right? But they had to come up with a special word for it, incarnation. It means that the divine was here. That's all it is. So when you hear this, know that he was here, that God was here, that through the Trinity, and another thing that we firmly hold to is that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are all connected. They're all connected. All one, but all separate. If you have questions about that, that's a whole different message. Give it to you another time. But really, but when you look at this and you hear about this, so that means that when Jesus was here, God was here at the same time. Jesus was here, God's here. And so all the things that Jesus experienced and all the things that he went through, God also has that experience. He has that reference point. He knows everything that happened, and he knows, and he looks at this. And so the big thing is that when you're hearing this, is that everything that happened here, God actually has this, and he's gone through everything that you've been tempted with. Everything that you've had going on in your life, everything that's happened, all the pain and sorrow that you've gone through in your life, God's experienced this. God has gone through all of this stuff. So loss, God's experienced it. When we really have these things, when we start going, we lose a close person, because all of us have lost somebody close. Some of us have lost people close, like really close to us this year. Some of us, we've lost grandmothers and mothers, and we've lost, and I can empathize with that. I can feel that. And you can sit there and you can go, these are things that have happened. Well, God has experienced that as well. These are all things he's experienced lost. He's also experienced having a friend betray him. Anybody remember is that Judas said, no, that's not my homeboy anymore. You can take him, crucify him, do whatever you got to do. That betrayal, somebody that you consider close, somebody that you know is supposed to have your back. Well, haven't we experienced that sometimes? We know that somebody's, oh yeah, he's going to take care of me, and really they don't. That experience. We know what that's like. We know but God also knows what that's like. God knows what it's like to have a friend who's kind of wishy-washy. That's kind of there, but then disappears. He's there, and then he's gone again. Look at Peter. Peter comes in, and Peter goes, oh, I'm going to be there for you, God. I will never go anywhere. Ever. I'm going to be there. I am your dog. You don't have to worry about anything. And guess what happens? And he goes, and Jesus tells him, well, by the time the third crow of the rooster, you're going to deny me 3 times. And Peter, no, that would never happen. And sure enough, it does. You start hearing these things, all of this stuff that we expect and all these things that we have gone through, it's the same thing that Jesus has gone through. Because I want you to think about something. Do you think that Jesus didn't have money problems? Do you think that they didn't have money problems back then? Think about it. We experience things and we're broke right now. Imagine how much different it was back then. When Caesar, because Jesus explicitly says, give to Caesar what is Caesar. And the Caesar they're referring to is the emperor of Greece. That's what they're looking at. They're giving him the money. That's his. Give it to him. And so when you look at this and you hear this, they would just come take it. So people were really broke. And they really talked about having food. Well, Jesus, what did he do? He walked from city to city. He didn't have relationships. It's not like he didn't get an opportunity to earn everybody's trust while he was sitting there doing service. You know, he didn't have 3 years of being in one city and starting to try and grow, where you get a community to trust you and you get a community to go, oh no, he's not stealing money out of the till. He's taking care of everybody. You know, he didn't get that. He literally went from city to city to city. There's a rap song in there someplace, right? And so he goes from city to city, and he gets there, and literally he gives a message, and after that message, you hear that he moves on. Well, they take an offering just like we do. They take an offering back then, but if you don't trust the person, if you don't know the person, or if you don't know the person who's coming, and he was a rabbi at the time, and so rabbis go from place to place to place. They never know when he's going to come back again. And so if you don't know that person, you don't give. So you got to know they experienced very heavy money problems. And it's hard when you're traveling from city to city to do what the other offering is that people will give. Here's a thashel of wheat. Here you go. What am I going to do with that? I'm leaving tonight. I'm going to another place. I don't have a pickup truck. I got these sandals. That's what I have. Where am I going to put that stuff at? Just think about this. All the things that we've gone through, all the things that you're going through, where am I going to put this out? Where are my finances going to be stronger? When's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? It's all happened in the 3 years that we have of history of Jesus. Just in that 3 years, he experienced all these things that we're going through now. The other thing is, though, he was crucified. The pain that none of us can even imagine. If you've seen the Passion of the Christ, and we're going to talk about that when we have communion tonight, and we're going to talk about that, but if you've seen that, it's vicious. And if you haven't seen it, it's on what is it, Netflix? It's there. Watch it. It's in Hebrew, so you're going to have to read, but it's great. It's really a movie that you need to watch and see what really happened and see what went on. Because I'm telling you right now, anything that you consider pain, anything that you've ever experienced and said, oh, I can go through that, I promise you right now, you're not going through this. Jesus told us, he said, all of this that I've experienced, you will experience it and more. And more. For following me, it's a big price to follow me. It's a big price to follow me. That's what he said. A couple weeks ago we talked about the pilgrims. Look at the price that they paid. 120 of them came here. 120 pilgrims show up here. The first Thanksgiving, there was 50 of them left. That's 70 people in a matter of a year. It's an ultimate price to be able to have that religious freedom. The ultimate price, you lose 70 people in a year. That's 4 of your friends dying every month. That's a death a week. That's you burying a family member every week. Can you imagine how difficult it was back then? The pain that we look at and we go, people have experienced it. God has experienced it. But yet people have continued to do this in order to have this thing that we call Christianity. When you hear it and you kind of look into it, and it goes, for we do not have a Christ who's unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive his mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Remember how I told you is that what do we usually do? As guys, we do this all the time. We like to pick up the load and try and carry it on our own. I can get it. I do this at home. A couple weeks ago, or a couple days, actually last week, we were donated a couch. Melissa and I, we were donated this, and it's a nice couch. It was given to us by the food bank to be taken home for us. And so you go to our house, we have this beautiful leather couch that was donated to us. And this thing is not light. It's got 2 recliners in it. It's not. But I refuse to ask for help because I'm a big boy, right? And I'm literally a big boy. I can take care of things. And so I picked up this couch and carried it into my house on my own. And I called Melissa. Melissa goes, oh, you moved into the garage. Yeah, I moved into the garage, all right, and through the garage into the house. And she goes, what's wrong with you? And I go, I'm not one to not do something all the way. I want to make sure it gets all the way done. But this morning I got up and my back still hurt. I was like, man, I pay for that. That's the same thing that happens, though, with us as guys all the time. Instead of going to God and trying to find and receive that grace and mercy, we try and muscle up and do it. We refuse to ask for help. We will be lost and know that we are lost. Know it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We'll be like out in the middle of nowhere and be like, oh no, I know where we're going. And you refuse to ask for directions. You'd be like, I've driven down this road before. I've been here. I know this. It looks so familiar. Those are lines that I've said several times. I've been here. I know it. We're going to be good. When's the next city showing up? I mean, well, come on. You know, I will give you this one time is that I lived in New York for a while. And so when you live in New York, you get onto the thruway, okay? So, and it's called the thruway for a reason. It goes through New York. It goes from New York City, and it goes all the way to Buffalo. And so I get on the thruway, and I was only trying to go to Syracuse. So it's not a very far ride. It's kind of short. And I get on the road, and I'm going that way, and I get on there, and I don't know, I got into the music. I don't know what happened. But I looked up, and I go, none of this seems familiar. I felt lost. And I go, I'll just get off at the next exit. Well, 38 miles later, 38 miles was the next exit. I mean, if you didn't have gas, you were in trouble. I mean, it was 38 miles down the road, all because I wasn't willing to seek help, because somebody told me, they're like, yeah, in the middle, there's actually places it's legal to turn around here. And I go, I wasn't willing to call. I wasn't willing to get over and stop. I was just like, I'll just wait, and I can figure it out from the next exit. 38 miles later. This is what we do as guys. This is what we do as people, because women do the same thing. Women try and get through their emotional problems, because guys don't try and get through their emotional problems. They just bottle it up. But women try and get through their emotional problems without talking to other people, with the things that they're feeling, what's going on, the things that had hurt deep inside. Guys, we just muscle through, and we just go out of feelings. I don't have those. I don't know what those are like. You know, and that's what ends up happening. The thing that's important is to know is that Jesus knows what it's like to be human. He knows what it's like to be human. He knows all the feelings, the things that we experience, the emotions that we've gone through. Everything that you've looked at and everything that you have going on, he understands that and he feels that. He knows what's going on. Think about something, is that all of us, is that we have things that have happened in our lives where you look at it and go, God never experienced this. God was human. He was here. He experienced everything that you're going through. Everything. The trials. Remember, he went from city to city on sandals. He didn't have Nikes. You know, he didn't have a nice little, he didn't drive around in an Escalade. He drove around on sandals that he made. A slab of leather. It wasn't even a sandal. You know, if you look at the shoes from back then, they were like a slab of leather. It's like, and that's it. Tied on and lace them up around your ankle. You know, it's like the ultimate flippers. You know, like flip-flops. Flippers. My flippy floppies. No. You know. But those are the things that happens. And so you see this. It's important to look at John 1. John 1:14, it says, so the Word became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness. And we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father, the one and only Son. Guys, he was here, and it talks about it. Everybody knows this. And it says, the Word became flesh. Without question, this is the great mystery of our faith. Christ was revealed in a human body and vindicated by the Spirit. He was seen by angels and announced to the nations. He was believed in throughout the world and taken to heaven in glory. Look at these things. God was here. And not only was he here, he was one of these things that people looked at and they knew that he was here. They saw him and they're like, there was something different about him. He is this glory, this how he acts. They looked at him and they go, this is amazing. Do they say that about us when our faith, or our walk? Do they look at us and go, there's something different? Even though we're human, he was tempted over and over again, and yet he didn't sin. He knew exactly what it was like to be human, and still doesn't sin. Guys, we get in the right questionable thing, we'll sin. You know, when I worked in retail, and there's actually a thing that everybody knows about. It's called the 10-80-10, and it's kind of known throughout. Anytime that you work in like retail or even warehousing or anything like that, it's called the 10-80-10. 10% of people out there, 10%, will never ever steal, ever. They will never steal. They will never take anything. Then there is 10% of the population that are just pure thieves. No matter what the circumstance is, they will always steal. It doesn't matter. They don't even care if you're watching them. They're just going to, that's mine now. My cup of coffee. Thank you. And that's just how it is. Then there's 80% of the population that if they think they can get away with it, and they're like pretty sure that they're going to get away with it, they look at it and they go, I'm pretty certain that I'm not going to get caught. They will steal. 90% of people will put themselves in a circumstance. It's the same way. The iPad doesn't sin. The iPad causes us to sin. Here's what happens is that as guys, and some women get out there, and what happens is that they get a little bored with their iPad, and they start surfing the wrong websites. And they start finding websites that are a little dangerous to relationships. You know, you start getting into this and you start looking at it, and it's true across the board, and pastors aren't exempt from this. Pastors, people, it happens, is that that people end up getting addicted to porn and watching lots and lots of porn. Like I said, the second service is that I'm not coming out and saying I'm addicted to porn, because I'm not. But what I am saying is that pastors, there's support groups and stuff for this. There's things, literally, there's pastors that are out there that because there's a toll for being a pastor. It's not one of these things that people go, oh, you just come in and you just work one day a week. It's got to be easy. You guys got to remember something. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you call, guess what happens? I get up and I go. It's just how it is. If it's the same thing, you call at 5 o'clock and go, hey, we need to, we have something going on. I get up and I go. Somebody doesn't go pick up the food. I get up and I go. Well, what happens is it becomes very taxing for that beautiful woman that's standing up back there videotaping right now. It becomes very taxing. It takes away, it destroys, and it makes it to where my family life becomes very second to what we do, because she knows that if the phone call rings, it could be me leaving at that point. It could be me going to go take care of something. And she knows that my family sometimes has to be number two, because God is number one. So what that happens is that it kind of destroys things that, when you start listening to this and you start hearing this and you go, wait a minute, your family's supposed to be number one. God's supposed to be number one. Remember that. Throughout all of your life, God is supposed to be number one. God put me in a position to pastor a church. And that means that this is my home. This is my, guys, you guys going to know something. If I'm not here, I'm at home. If I'm not at home, I'm here. I mean, my day consists of a mile between here and there. That's it. That's the only, maybe you catch me at a Walmart. I mean, that's really that's the extent of my life. There's nothing else going on. And so when you hear that, it's very emotionally taxing, and it takes away from your family a lot. So you can imagine why it would cause difficulty at home for certain pastors, because some pastors do much more than I do, and I do a lot. But there's other pastors out there, especially where they don't have a volunteer base at all. It's like one guy with 40 people, and he just takes care of everything. Well, when that happens, it makes it to where they have no family life. There's nothing at home, and it causes them to not have any sort of relations with their wife. They don't have any belly button to belly button time. And it makes it to where, if you're a guy, most guys have the needs. That's what they'll say. I have needs. I have to get this fulfilled. And you'll find it someplace. That's what happens. Jesus knows what it's like to be human. Let me go back to that. One of the things, though, that Jesus also knew, Jesus knew he needed to be alone. As we're in this Christmas time, Jesus knew he needed to be alone. As we're at this time where we're sitting here and we're looking at, and really this is what causes people to get in trouble, this feeling of loneliness. And sometimes loneliness is a good thing. Loneliness is one of these things that we should actually take and actually use to our advantage, and we don't. This loneliness is supposed to be a time for us to be able to really connect and to focus on what was important. Every time that something was going on in Jesus' life, and whether it was majorly bad or majorly good, Jesus always did one thing. He retreated. And he went backwards and he became alone. And he was like, I need to go spend some time with God. I need to get in prayer. It didn't matter if it was good or if it was bad. 40 days in the desert. He's fasting and he's praying. Anybody in here ever gone and fasted at all? Anybody in here fasted? Anybody in here fasted for more than 3 days? Anybody in here fasted for more than 2 weeks? Because I went 2 weeks. And let me tell you, you're willing to eat anything at that point. Things that you said I would never eat. You're like, I'll eat that. I will. Things you're like, I'm never going to eat that. You're like, oh, that looks pretty delicious at this point. Things that you thought that smelled questionable, you're like, does this smell good to you? Because this smells good to me now. And they're like, man, that's brown meat. You're like, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to eat this. Those are things that happen after you go 2 weeks. Because just think, some of you guys have gone 3 days. Like last year, coming up on this, my wife went 3 days, and 8 hours into it, she was going, I'm starving, I'm shaking, baby. What am I supposed to do? Drink some water. I don't know. And that's what it was. That literally is how it was. She was like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Baby, it's a half day. You're going to be okay. You're not going to die from not eating in a half day. But 3 days into it, 3 days, it starts changing a little bit. You get to a 3-day of fast, you're sitting there, and you start looking at things, and all of a sudden you start becoming a little hungry. You look at things, and it changes. You're looking to go, maybe anchovies on pizza isn't bad. Maybe that's going to be delicious. Maybe, and you start looking at things a little differently. If you like anchovies on your pizza, there's something weird about having dead fish on pizza. It just doesn't match. And so when you look at it and you see what's going on there, and but 40 days in the desert, you know who he relied upon? Relied upon God. He looked to him and said, God, you can take care of me. You can fulfill this. This hunger you can take away, this temptation. Because the devil shows up on the 40th day. And have you been here when we come out of a fast? Because we do it wrong. We come out here and we do a feast, and you're not supposed to do that. But when you come out of a fast, you know that you're willing to do anything at that point. You're like, I'll eat this, and I'll eat this, I'll eat pizza, I'll eat, you just go down the whole gamut. I'll eat anything. Fried chicken, pizza, it doesn't matter what it is. You're like, I'm going to eat that. And that's not what you're supposed to do. But the devil comes up and he shows up at the 40th day and he goes, see all this, all that you can see, everything that's out here, I'll make it yours. And he retreats and he goes, no, my God, he gives me strength. He gets me through this. In the Bible it says, but Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness for prayer. It's Luke 5. He just withdrew and he went to prayer. He just stepped back and he goes, I need to go back here and I need to spend time with God. To be alone. Sometimes being alone is a good thing. We look at it all too wrong. We go, oh, I'm alone. Well, God may have placed you alone so that you will spend time with him. So that you will spend time and go, focus on me. It says, be still and know that I am God. Be still. Retreat. Be alone and know that I am God. Stop being full of busyness. Because that's what we do at this time right now. We become full of busyness. And even though that God's put us in positions where we're supposed to be alone, nobody likes sitting at home alone. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes being at home just by themselves staring at the wall. Except for Melinda and Chaz. They love it apparently. They're like, I love being at home all by myself. I don't want to be, I hate people. And it's just... But sometimes, guys, I want you to think about something. When was the last time you were just still? You took everything out of your mind, everything, and just knew that God was in charge. That you just knew. And you just sat there and you just took everything else. Not thinking about what you were going to do as soon as it, because I had this app, this meditation app. It's called Centrally or something like that. And what it does is it's supposed to bring me to where I get to know myself a little bit, right? And so it's like 30 minutes of meditation 3 times a week. And what I'm looking for, as soon as I start this thing, I'm going, what am I going to be doing right after this? Because this 30 minutes I need to burn through. That's not what you're supposed to focus on. It's supposed to be relaxing. You're supposed to kick back and almost fall asleep during meditation and be able to and really find yourself. Well, this is what we're supposed to do when we're pursuing and spending time with God. We're supposed to be sitting there and relaxed and not have to worry about what's coming next. What am I going to do right after this? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do after this? What am I going to do? Because that's how our mind works. Our mind and our mind causes us to do things that we never really planned on or doing, and it really plays tricks on us. Sometimes your mind is like this amazing, powerful tool that can mess with you a little bit. Your mind, a couple days ago, again, my wife, she's just the victim today. And a couple days ago, is that she came downstairs, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Baby, I think I'm dying." And I go, "You're not dying." Yeah, and that's what she said. She came downstairs. She said, "No, really, I think I have a blood clot. My heart is racing." And I said, "Baby, that's not going on." I said, "You're fine." No, my arm is numb. I'm telling you, something's wrong. It's tingly all over the place. She's laughing because this is exactly what she said. There's no getting past all of this. This is exactly. And so she comes downstairs. She goes, "What am I supposed to do? We need to go to the hospital." I go, "We're not going to the hospital. Relax here for a second. Take a deep breath." And I go, "Why don't you sit down? We get this. Because for me, I got hypertension. So, my blood pressure. Obviously, because I don't do well with with a lot of things, but blood pressure tends to be up a little bit. And so I have a monitor because I need to track it, and I've been doing pretty well. And so I go, just sit down. Let's take your blood pressure. She goes, my heart's racing. I know it is. I can feel it. It's like getting ready to explode out of my chest. And her blood pressure comes back, and it's like 120 over 87, and her pulse is 67. and you look at that, and you go, you see, you're fine. And I go, what'd you drink today? Well, I had 2 energy drinks, and what else did you have? So you didn't have any water? You didn't have anything else? No, just 2 energy drinks? You're dehydrated, baby. Go drink some water. Sometimes our mind plays tricks on us. It gets us to the point where we get so over the top that we're going to run to the hospital when really all we needed to do was drink a glass of water. Sometimes all we need to do just to calm ourselves down is to step back and look at it and go, let me just be still and just know. But a lot of times it's just our mind goes to these different places. Be still and know that I am God. And really when you step back and you look at it, even in the good times, Jesus did this. Even when things are, even when his homeboys are coming and going, hey, we got to go out and do this. They showed up at the door, they knocked on and go, hey, we're going to this party. And even then he stepped back. He was like, wait a minute here, let me step back. Because I need to go spend time, because you might be trying to lead me into something that I'm not supposed to go into. If you look at John 6, he said, Jesus saw in their enthusiasm. He saw it in their enthusiasm. They were about to grab him and take him to the strip club or take him to this place. No, they're about to grab him and make him king. So he slipped off and went back up to the mountaintop to be by himself. He had to go back to be by himself because he's like, wait a minute, this is not right. You're not about to snatch me up and take me and have me do something that God hasn't led me to go do. God has a direction that he wants me to go. And it wasn't to go and become king. He wanted me to go out and talk to different nations. He wanted me to go around to different places, not to go be declared king of the Jews. That's where they get this. In the beginning, you see when he's crucified, above his cross it says, King of the Jews. It's because of this passage right here. And he backed away. He said, I don't want that. Never once did he declare himself that. He backs away and he goes, wait a minute, I don't want that. And he went to go back into prayer. He went to go spend time with God going, I know that they're excited that I'm here, but really I need to spend time with you. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, there's usually time that we need to spend with God. That time that needs to be alone, that time that, you got to separate yourself from your family, you got to separate yourself from everything. You just need to spend time alone. One of the things that we forget is that God knows what it's like to experience pain. He knows what it's like to experience that loneliness. He knows what it's like to experience all those hurts that we feel. He knows it. And we don't look at it that way. We look and go, God, why are you doing this to me? I had a conversation today. He goes, I'm mad at God. I'm mad. Why am I going through this? If you know somebody who's going through cancer, you've had the same question. Why are they going? I talked about it. Why do good things happen to why do bad things happen to good people? And good things happen to bad people. It happens over and over again. We're like, why is this happening? I've done what you've asked me to do, God. Why is it that I end up with cancer? Why is it I end up with this? They get angry. Ask anybody who's even had a family member go through it. Why is it? And I go, I don't have an answer for you, man. I don't know. You get to ask God before I do, apparently, though. And that's really what it comes down to. You get this opportunity to be able to ask and find out what's going on. I hope that you can give me the answers when I get there. But that's really, we get angry, we get mad, but God knows what it's like to experience the same pain that we're going through. On Friday or Saturday, we gave away, guys, there's tons and tons of bread out there. Please take what's left, because if you don't take it, it's going in the trash. But yesterday, as we were distributing bread, and by the way, this bread, I went and picked up 6 pallets of it. And so when you go out there, you see that there's very little left. You go into that other front room over there, there's trays and trays and trays of stack. We gave away tons of bread. We fed 400 different families with bread. I mean, it's amazing that we were able to do this, and this is what this church does. But one of the people that walked in, she's been living out of our RV. And really it's kind of nice that she has an RV, but still, guys, I don't know if you've ever been out camping at this time of year. You know that it's cold outside. And RVs, older RVs, because it's not a newer one, it's not like she's rolling around in this brand new Winnebago. No, it's an older, beat up RV. And when the old ones, they're made out of metal. And so when it's cold like how it is outside, the inside of that bad boy is freezing. I mean, it is freezing. And so if you were living in that, and you didn't have money to pay to heat that, to pay for propane or to run the heat or the gas all the time, you're in big trouble. You're hurting. And she's been living in this, and you feel how cold it is out there right now. And so she came in last night or yesterday, and she was talking to me, and I was just having a conversation, and you can tell that she's definitely experienced some stuff, just some hard times. And you could just tell that she was recovering from drugs. You know, there's certain times that you can look, and you can just see, you can read somebody immediately and go, life has been tough. And so, as I was talking to her, I was telling her is that God will give you the strength to get through this. He will give you the strength. He will let you get through it, but you have to start relying on Him. All this pain that you're experiencing, everything that you've been through, know that God has been there and He's willing to help you get through it. And she looked at it and she said, it's so amazing that you said that. She's all, because right now is that yesterday, which would be Friday for her. She goes, I was going through some of the stuff inside of this RV, that things that have been donated to me, things that have been, and she's all inside of this wig box. Inside of this wig box was a brand new wig. And underneath that wig was an envelope with $2,000 in it. And she goes, you know, my first thing was to thank God. You know, I mean, this is somebody who's a drug addict. And her first thing was, I need to thank God for delivering me from the pain and for delivering me from what I've been going through. Now I have an opportunity to start getting some things better. Now I have an opportunity to change. Now there's light at the end of this tunnel. And really, it was just all glory belongs to God. And it's like one of these things you go, it's an amazing conversation. She tried to give me money yesterday. That's what she tried to do. She tried, here, you need to take, I need to be able to, and I go, I can't take that. You need to take that money. And she's like, look, there's hope. I was able to find a place that I could go live at. I have and guys, that pain that we've gone through, there is hope always at the other end of it. It's always there. Sometimes, and like I told her, I said, God is never late. He's never late. He doesn't work on our time, but He's never, ever late. You know, we want things yesterday. And God goes, you're not ready for it. You guys have heard the story. First day of church. It looked very similar to this room. I had them put out 200 chairs, I think, and it looked like this. It was not pretty. But God knew that we weren't ready for that. And He knew. He knew that even now He knows that He knows exactly how many people need to be here, what we're ready for. You know, we continue to try and push it, and so the pain that we experience, like right now we're experiencing, you look at that and it's usually self-inflicted. We bring it upon ourselves. But God knows what it's like to experience that pain. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weakness, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet He did not sin. He told us by trusting in Him. He said, I've told you all of this so that trusting in me, you will be unshakable and assured. Now, I've used this analogy a couple times, and it comes out a little differently every time. And so, but I want to tell you is that, you guys ever seen how they harvest almonds or they harvest walnuts or anything like that? You ever seen how that happens? So they have these tractors that come up to the tree, and basically what happens is it has these arms that reach out and grab a hold of it. And then they have these little nets that come around it. It's all automated. It's this thing is holding on to it and a net wraps around it. And then they shake everything, anything that you want to fill in there, they just shake it. And what happens is that a bunch of those almonds or those walnuts fall off, and they land in the net, and then they retract the net and they go to the next tree. But what happens is you can look up, and you can look on. And they've shaken it. I mean, if you've ever seen this, it is violent. I mean, just go Google, walnut harvesting, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it is violent. It is like, like if you shook somebody like that, it would kill them instantly. You'd break their neck right off. I mean, it's, and so when you see this, but some trees still have walnuts hanging on. They still have almonds. They still have whatever it is hanging on, because you know what they did is that in the Bible, there's a time when Jesus tells us this story, and He goes, you have to remember something, is that I am the vine, and that you are the branches and the leaves that are connected. So He's really the trunk, and there's a branch, and then there's leaves. And so if you think about it, if you're that almond and you're hanging on to a healthy branch and healthy relationships, that's hung on to a Christ, a Jesus believing church, that trunk that's supposed to be there. That when you're being shaken and you feel alone and you feel all this pain coming up, that you have a group of people to get you through it. You have this group that are willing to, no matter what's going on, this chaos that you're calling life, as it's going back and forth, and over everything it is that there's a group of people that are there to help you survive, help you get through it, help you get through loss, help you get through the pain, help you get through celebrations. Because sometimes not all celebrations are good ones. Sometimes celebrations can be bad. Sometimes good things lead to very bad things. We all know somebody that went off and had a celebration from a job promotion and ended up spending the night in jail for a DUI. We all, there's just people that you've heard of that. Maybe you don't know somebody personally. I know a few people personally. Start thinking about that God he's been able to experience this pain. But he always had people to do it with him. Jesus had 12 that were his buddies. And he had 3 that were his best buddies. He had 3 that were just real special to him. And he always retreated with them, but a lot of times he went to go be alone. And he says, you'll be unshakable and assured and deeply at peace. In this godless world, you will continue to experience difficulties, but take heart, I have conquered the world. Think about all the difficulties that you've gone through. Think about maybe you're in your 40s, or maybe you're in your 30s, or maybe you're even in your 20s, and start looking back and start thinking about all the things that you've gone through, all the pain that God has delivered you through, all the sorrow, all the trouble that you caused that God has gotten you out of. Because some of you guys, you look back and go, I should have went to jail, and you didn't go. And you start looking at it, and you start going, and you go, God has delivered us from so much. Why is it that we are so shakable at this point? Why is it that we're never assured? We're always questioning. We question our salvation. We question our relationship with God. We question our relationship with others. Everything. We're easily shakable. We're that walnut that is easy to be dropped off of the tree. We don't have peace. And in this godless world, we walk around as if we're godless just like everybody else. These are things that we can change. Christ told us, he goes, all of this that has happened to me, it will happen to you and more. All of it. Guys, all the difficulties that we're going through, all the things that we look at and go, oh, life sucks. It does suck. But you're not being crucified. You don't have people pursuing you. Well, maybe some of you have people pursuing you, but you don't have people pursuing you like he did back then. I mean, and so when you start looking at it, you start going, I don't have it that bad. In fact, I have it pretty good. Even no matter what the situation's going on. And you realize that Christ has conquered the world, so much can happen. So much positive. Take a step back and start looking at it and going, I've got it pretty good right now. Remember, the Pilgrims lost a family member a week in order to pursue their faith. In order to pursue a relationship with God, they lost a family member a week. That's how dedicated they were. The first thing that comes up that shakes us a little bit, we're like, oh, I'm out. Peace. See you later, church. Going back home and kick my feet up. The first thing that happens. So easily shaken by things that don't affect really anything except for these earthly, godless things. Maybe we should change that. Maybe we start pursuing what God has asked us to pursue. Start doing life the way that he's asked us to in this godless world. And start bringing God to the people that need it the most. Let's pray. I feel like I've been talking forever. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much for guiding us and leading us today. For showing us the direction that you've wanted us to go. For leading us back to you through pain and sorrow. And even in good times, we need to come back to you and be led to you and follow what you've laid out for us in this life. God, we ask for your strength. That during this Christmas time that we actually have Christ in Christmas. That we, instead of going out and pursuing all these temporary things, these toys or these video games, that we try to pursue you. And we don't have a fake Christmas, we have a real one that really involves you. God, thank you for guiding and leading and directing. God, now we ask that our hearts can be opened to be able to receive the message so that we can we can start walking forward and loving our neighbors and loving you. God, call us back from this journey sometimes we call being lost or abandoned, because you've always been there and you've been walking along with us. Most of us know the poem of Footprints, where you've always been there, and the only time that we saw that one set is when you were carrying us through. God, I want to walk alongside of you instead of you carrying me through it. Give me that strength. Give us all that strength. And help us get through all these different challenges that are upcoming. And all of this we pray in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.